Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to uh, the part two of our training on conflict management, resolution, and transformation. Like I said in part one of this training is actually coming to you from the Institute for Crisis Resolution, Peacebuilding, and Conciliation, ICRPC. I still remain your facilitator, Ambassador Dr. Abdul Wahid Odewale. In the part one of this very training, we treated module one and module two. I told you we have 10 modules for this particular training. And of course, we are going to continue with module three, though the first part of module three has been treated in part one, but we are going to start all over again with module three in this very part. We talked about, we looked at module three, which focused on conflict resolution techniques. And we said that effective conflict resolution requires a range of techniques that is tailored to the specific context and needs of the parties involved. So this module actually explores various methods that can be used to address and resolve conflict constructively. Now, we want to start with negotiation, negotiation strategies and tactics. We know that negotiation is a process. It's actually a process where two or more parties communicate and begin to reach a mutually acceptable agreement. So effective negotiation involves preparation, clear communication, and even strategic thinking. So somebody was asking the other time that what is the difference between negotiation and mediation? And we say, well, the difference between negotiation and mediation is that in mediation, there is the presence of a third party, while in negotiation, there is this absence of a third party. Both disputants actually, negotiate with each other, without the presence of a third party. That is, so that's why mediation sometimes is called assisted negotiation, because there is a third party who is called the mediator. Now, let us talk about key negotiation strategies. We have three negotiation strategies. We all agree and we all know that, of course, a negotiation has to do with a process a process where two or more parties communicate and begin to reach a mutually acceptable agreement. So each negotiation involves preparation, like I said, clear communication, and even strategic thinking. So the key strategies we have are three major negotiation strategies, which is the integrative negotiation, the distributive negotiation, and the principled negotiation. The integrative negotiation is also known as the win-win negotiation because it is a strategy that focuses on finding solutions that satisfy the interests of all parties. It actually involves collaboration, mutual respect, and and a willingness to explore creative solution. It is otherwise called it's otherwise called, sorry, the positive sum. The positive sum negotiation, or the win-win negotiation. Then when we move to distributive negotiation, which is the win-lose or the zero-sum negotiation, because this strategy involves dividing the fixed amount of resources, and it is competitive and adversarial because each party tries to maximize their gain or tries to win at the expense of the other party. And of course, the third one is principled negotiation. Like we said, it is based on the Harvard negotiation project. And of course, we know that the Harvard negotiation project is a negotiation project that actually approaches negotiation by emphasizing on four key principles. And these four key principles has to do with the fact that the first principle is to separate the people from the problem. That is the first principle. The second one is to focus on interest rather than positions. And the third one is to generate a variety of options and insist on using objective criteria as the fourth one. Now, we are quickly going to look at effective tactics for negotiation. We said that negotiation, what makes a successful negotiation is when there is preparation, adequate preparation. So one of the most effective the background, the foundation for a successful negotiation is when there is effective, when there's preparation and planning, which is the first tactics. Preparation and planning, understanding the issues, the interests, and the positions of all parties, gathering relevant information and developing a clear negotiation plan. That is the first tactic, which is preparation. And don't forget that no matter how much preparation you make, no matter how much you prepare, you should also learn during the negotiation process. We must take that into consideration. So the second tactic for negotiation is active listening, which has to do with listening carefully to the other party's concerns and perspectives and showing empathy and then validating their feelings to build trust and rapport. And of course, the third tactic is clear communication, which has to do with articulating your needs and interests clearly, avoiding ambiguous language, and ensure that your positions are understood. And the fourth tactic is questioning and clarifying. Asking open-ended questions to gain deeper insights and even clarifying any misunderstandings. This helps in identifying the underlying interest of the parties. Then you also look at the next one is what? Building rapport. Building rapport has to do with establishing a positive relationship with the other party. Building rapport can create a more cooperative atmosphere and even facilitate agreement. And the fifth one is, the sixth one is BATNA. We call it BATNA. The BATNA is the acronym for best alternative to a negotiated agreement. When you know your BATNA before entering negotiations, understanding your alternatives provides leverage and helps in making informed decisions. So, in other words, your BATNA is actually can be considered as your plan B. So, you must have a plan B that is the position where, what you fall back on when negotiation fails. That it gives you leverage so that you don't depend entirely on the negotiation itself. So you have a plan B, that is your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. We are going to look at that in detail as we progress. Then we'll look at the next approach, talking about mediation and facilitation. We look at mediation and facilitation. We already know that mediation and facilitation are processes where a neutral third party helps disputing parties reach a resolution. So the mediator, or also called the facilitator, guides the conversation. He ensures effective communication and even assists in finding mutually acceptable solutions. There are some key mediation skills that must be that must be taken into cognizance. Number one is neutrality, 2 is active listening, 3 is questioning, 4 is reframing, and the 5th is summarizing. These are key mediation skills. The first one of neutrality means that neutrality must be maintained and a mediator must avoid taking sides. So the mediator's role is to facilitate dialogue, not to impose solutions. The second one is active listening. The mediator must listen attentively to each party's concerns and perspectives. So he must reflect back what you hear to ensure understanding and validate emotions. Then the third one is questioning, using open-ended questions to explore issues, uncover interest, and even encourage deeper dialogue. And the fourth one again there is reframing, helping parties to view conflict from different perspectives. Reframing can transform negative statements into more constructive dialogue. And the 5th one is summarizing, periodically summarizing key points. So, and of course, when you summarize key points and agreements to ensure that everyone is on the same page and to clarify misunderstandings. Then, of course, the 6th one is managing emotions. Mediators must recognize and address emotional dynamics in the room. He must help parties express their feelings in a constructive manner and de-escalate heightened emotions. Now, there are some key facilitation skills too, which has to do with agenda setting, time management, encouraging participation, and even consensus building. We are still going to look at them in detail. Now, under that, we'll look at arbitration and adjudication processes. Arbitration and adjudication processes. We have discussed it before. We said that arbitration actually and adjudication involve a third party making a binding decision to resolve a conflict. So that means these processes are more formal than mediation and facilitation, and are often used when parties cannot reach an agreement on their own. For example, in arbitration, it has to do with selecting an arbitrator. Then the arbitration does the hearing, which is called arbitration hearing. Then, of course, there's decision making, and the fourth aspect is enforcement. That is the arbitration process itself. Which, and first, like I come again on that, selecting the arbitrator. That is the situation where parties choose a neutral arbitrator with expertise in the relevant area. So the arbitrator's decision is typically binding and enforceable. Yes. Then the second aspect in the arbitration process is what we call arbitration hearing. That is where the arbitrator conducts a hearing where both parties present their cases, including evidence and witness. Testimony. So the process is similar to a court trial, but it's usually less formal. Then decision making. That is the third process. The arbitrator reviews the evidence and arguments and make a decision based on the facts and applicable law. So the decision known as an award is binding on the parties. And the fourth arbitration process is enforcement. That means the arbitration award can be enforced through the courts, so if necessary. So arbitration is often preferred for its speed and confidentiality compared to traditional litigation. Now we look at the next one, which is arbitration. Arbitration has its own process too. Arbitration has its own process, which has to do with appointment of. We're talking about adjudication now. That is the next one, adjudication. Its own process has to do with appointing the adjudicator, submission of evidence, thirdly, adjudication decision, and also appeal process. So what that means is that the first process is appointment of adjudicator. An adjudicator is appointed to make a decision on the conflict. This process is common in construction disputes and other specialized fields. The next process in adjudication is submission of evidence, meaning that parties submit written statements, evidence, and arguments to the adjudicator. So the process is usually quick and is designed to resolve disputes efficiently. Then, of course, adjudication decision again is what? That's the third stage, where the adjudicator reviews the submissions and makes a binding decision. So the decision is typically enforceable through legal mechanisms. And the fourth process is what? Appeal process. Because in some cases, parties may have the right to appeal the adjudicator's decision in a court or through arbitration. So, however, appeals are usually limited to specific grounds, such as procedural errors. Now, let us quickly look at dialogue and communication techniques. Dialogue and communication techniques, very, very important. We'll look at dialogue and communication techniques where we will be discussing, because in fact, it is even important to note that effective communication is the cornerstone of conflict resolution. Yes, effective communication is the cornerstone of conflict resolution. So various techniques can enhance dialogue and facilitate understanding between conflicting parties. So now we must know that there are some key dialogue techniques that must be put into consideration. Key dialogue techniques that must be put into. Number one is non-violent communication. We call it NVC. The non-violent communication is developed by a man called Marshall Rosenberg. Yes, non-violent communication, NVC, focuses on empathetic listening and expressing needs without blame or judgment. So the four components are observation, feelings, needs, and requests. That is key dialogue techniques. The second, after non-violent communication, we have interest-based communication. Interest-based communication has to do with what? It is about shifting the focus from positions, that is what parties want, to what? To interest. That means why they want it. So understanding underlying interest helps to identify common ground and help to develop creative solutions. Another key dialogue technique is what we call reflective listening. Under reflective listening, you reflect back what the other person has said to show understanding and validate their feelings. So this technique helps to build trust and reduce defensiveness. Then, of course, the fourth key dialogue technique is I messages. Instead of you use I statements to express feelings and needs without blaming the other party. For example, you can say, I feel frustrated when meetings start late because it disrupts my schedule. These are key dialogue techniques. You use I, don't say us, so that you express feelings and needs without blaming the other party. Then, of course, another key dialogue technique is open-ended questions. Open-ended questions. When you ask questions that encourage deeper exploration and understanding. Open-ended questions cannot be answered with a simple yes or no, and often begin with how, what, and why. So these are key dialogue techniques. We should also look at effective communication techniques. Effective communication techniques also has to do with clarity and conciseness. 2, active listening. 3, non-verbal communication. 4, feedback. And 5, managing interruptions. That is very important. Now, in respect of effective communication techniques, first one, clarity and conciseness. We know that you should communicate clearly and concisely to avoid misunderstandings, and you use simple language to avoid jargon. That is an effective communication technique. 2 is active listening. Active listening is very key in all forms of mediation and negotiation, because paying full attention to the speaker shows empathy and provides feedback. Active listening involves both verbal and non-verbal cues, such as nodding and managing eye contact, or maintaining eye contact. Then the third one is non-verbal communication, being aware of body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice. So non-verbal cues can convey empathy, openness, and even respect. And of course, the fourth technique of effective communication is feedback, providing constructive feedback that focuses on behaviors rather than personal characteristics. So you use feedback to clarify misunderstanding and even reinforce positive communication. And the fifth technique of effective communication is what? Managing interruptions. Ensure that all parties have the opportunity to speak without being interrupted. So you set ground rules for respective communication. So in conclusion, this module has provided an overview of various conflict resolution techniques, including negotiation strategies, mediation and facilitation skills, arbitration and adjudication processes, and effective dialogue and communication techniques. Each method has its unique advantages and is suitable for different types of conflict and context. By mastering these techniques, individuals can enhance their ability to manage and resolve conflict constructively, fostering better relationships and creating a more harmonious environment. In the next module, we will delve into, of course, we will still look into ADR, exploring their principles, methods, and successful practices in different contexts. Now, as we progress, we are moving to module 4, alternative dispute resolution, ADR. What does it mean? We should now know by now that alternative dispute resolution refers to a variety of processes and techniques used to resolve disputes without resorting to litigation. ADR, in fact, alternative dispute resolution methods are often quicker, less formal, and less expensive than traditional court proceedings. So this module explores the principles, methods, and practical applications of alternative dispute resolution. 1, understanding ADR, definitions and principles. Now let us look at it very well. We know we have discussed mediation. It is a tool of ADR. Arbitration is an ADR technique. Conciliation is an ADR technique, and negotiation, 4 of them major ADR techniques. We all know what they are. We have explained them just a couple of moments ago. Then what about the principles of alternative dispute resolution? The principles of ADR is 1, voluntariness, meaning that participation in ADR processes is typically voluntary, allowing parties to opt in and out or withdraw as needed. Yes, that's one principle. Number 2 is the principle of confidentiality. Principles of ADR. ADR processes are private and the details of the proceedings are not disclosed without the consent of the parties involved. Number 3 is neutrality. ADR practitioners like mediators, arbitrators, or conciliators must maintain neutral and impartial and without any vested interest in the outcome. They must remain neutral, remain impartial without any interest in the outcome. 4, flexibility. ADR processes are flexible and can be tailored to the specific needs and circumstances of the parties involved. And number 5 is self-determination. These are the principles of ADR. Parties retain control over the resolution of their conflict, particularly in mediation and conciliation, where they actively participate in crafting the agreement. So now we will look at ADR methods. ADR methods, which we have just that is mediation, arbitration, and conciliation. Now, looking at the mediation process itself, we know that we can actually look at the process of mediation, which involves several stages, like the opening statement, information gathering, and even issue identification, option generation, negotiation, and even agreement drafting. And the mediator's role, what is the role of the mediator? The mediator facilitates communication, encourages exploration of solutions, and help parties understand each other's perspectives. Perspective. So the mediator does not impose a decision. And the advantages, or some of the major advantages of mediation, is that it is less adversarial. What I mean, it promotes cooperative problem solving and often preserves relationships. So it is usually quicker and less costly than litigation. Then arbitration too. The process of arbitration is that it involves submitting the conflict to an arbitrator who conducts a hearing. Just like we have explained in moments ago, it reviews evidences and makes a binding decision. So the process can be formal or informal, depending on the agreed rules. So the arbitrator's role there is to act similarly to a judge. He makes determinations based on the evidence and legal principles. So the decision known as an award is final and is binding. So the advantages of arbitration is that it is private, it can be faster than court litigation, and parties can select an arbitrator with specific expertise. So it provides a definitive resolution. Then conciliation is another aspect. Most people do not even know what conciliation means. Conciliation involves a conciliator who meets with the parties separately or together to discuss the issues and facilitate a settlement. So the process is informal and flexible. The role of the conciliator is to actively suggest solutions and may propose terms of settlement. The role is more interventionist compared to mediation. Are we getting it now? The role of the conciliator is more interventionist compared to what? Mediator. Because the conciliator can propose terms of settlement. He can suggest solutions. But mediator, to a very large extent, cannot propose terms of settlement. He cannot even come up with any binding solutions. Now, the advantages of conciliation is that conciliation can be quicker and less formal than mediation. And the conciliator's suggestions can help break deadlocks. Very, very important. Can help. So now implementing ADR in different contexts. How do we implement ADR in different contexts? Now, in the workplace, there's what we call workplace mediation. Workplace mediation is used to resolve conflicts between employees or between employees and management, because it focuses on improving communication and restoring working relationships. Then, arbitration in employment disputes. It is often used in resolving disputes that is related to employment contracts, discrimination claims, and even wrongful termination. Then in the area of commercial disputes, commercial mediation is there. Commercial mediation facilitates negotiation in business conflicts, such as contract disputes, partnership disagreements, and even intellectual property issues. Then there's commercial arbitration, which is preferred for resolving complex commercial disputes due to its confidentiality and the expertise of the arbitrators. Then we have family and community disputes. There's family mediation, which helps to resolve family disputes, including divorce, custody, and even property division. So it emphasizes the best interest of children and even future family relationships. Family mediation. Then there's even community mediation, whereby it addresses conflicts with communities, such as neighbor disputes, community group disagreements, and even local issues. It focuses on community cohesion and cooperation. So it is very important to note that mediation is the most widely used ADR activity. Yes, mediation, the most widely used ADR activity. Let us quickly look at some case studies of successful ADR practices. Case study one, like in workplace mediation. The scenario is a situation where a large corporation faced a conflict between two senior managers, resulting in a toxic work environment and decreased team productivity. Now, the company engaged a professional mediator to facilitate a series of mediation sessions. Through active listening and open communication, the mediator helped the managers understand each other's perspectives and develop a plan for improved collaboration. So the mediation resulted in a formal agreement outlining specific actions to enhance their working relationships, leading to a restored team harmony and productivity. Now, what about case study two that is in the area of commercial arbitration? Two technology companies were embroiled in a patent infringement dispute, threatening to escalate into a prolonged and costly litigation. Both parties agreed to arbitration, selecting an arbitrator with expertise in intellectual property law. So the arbitration process included document submissions, witness testimonies, and expert reports. So the arbitrator's binding decision resolved the dispute within 6 months, saving both companies substantial legal fees and allowing them to focus on their core businesses. There's also case study three. This is of family mediation. A divorcing couple with young children faced contentious custody and visitation issues. A family mediator facilitated sessions that focus on the children's needs and future co-parenting arrangements. So through structured dialogue and negotiation, the couple reached an agreement on joint custody and a detailed visitation schedule. So the mediation process helped the couple maintain a respectful relationship, ensuring stability and well-being for their children. Now, of course, case study four, which has to do with community mediation. That is a situation where a community faced ongoing disputes between residents and the local businesses over in fact between residents and the local business over noise and traffic disruptions. The community mediator organized a series of facilitated meetings, allowing all parties to express their concerns and propose solutions. So the mediation process resulted in a compromise where the business agreed to implement noise reduction measures and adjust delivery schedules, while residents agreed to support the business effort to operate sustainably. So the resolution actually improved communication, community relations, and enhanced local support for the business. So, in conclusion to module four, it means that this module has provided an in-depth exploration of alternative dispute resolution, ADR, including its definitions, principles, methods, and even practical applications in various contexts. So ADR offers flexible, cost-effective, and collaborative approaches to conflict resolution. So making it valuable tool for resolving disputes outside traditional court systems. So in the next module, we will delve into transformational conflict resolution, where we will explore how conflict can be transformed into opportunities for positive change, sustainable relationships, and even community empowerment. So stay engaged as we progress. Thank you. Now, again, without taking much of our time, we'll move to Module 5, Transformational Conflict Resolution. Transformational Conflict Resolution. What is Transformational Conflict Resolution? TCR. It goes beyond merely resolving disputes. TCR, Transformational Conflict Resolution, aims to change the underlying social and structural dynamics that causes conflict. This approach focuses on transforming relationships, building sustainable peace, and even empowering individuals and communities. The concept of conflict transformation. Conflict transformation is a comprehensive approach, that seeks to address the root causes of conflict and even transform the relationships and social structures that sustains it. Unlike conflict resolution, which aims to end conflict, conflict transformation seeks to change the conflict dynamics and the broader context in which it occurs. What are the key principles of conflict transformation? Key principles of conflict transformation. One, holistic approach. That is a very important principle of conflict transformation. Holistic approach, because it addresses the immediate issues and underlying causes of the conflict. The second principle of conflict transformation is sustainable peace. Sustainable peace. Yes, because it aims for long-term peace by transforming relationships and societal structures. And the third principle is empowerment, where it encourages individuals and communities to take active roles in peace building. And the fourth principle is inclusivity, because it involves all stakeholders, including marginalized and affected groups in the peace process. And the fifth one is positive change. It focuses on creating positive social change and development. Yes, those are the five key principles of conflict transformation. Now, let us look at transformative mediation and dialogue. What is transformative mediation and dialogue? Yes, looking at the first transformative mediation. The goals of transformative mediation unlike traditional mediation, which focuses on reaching an agreement, transformative mediation aims to empower parties and foster mutual recognition and understanding. The process actually involves identifying and addressing the emotional and relational dimensions of conflict. Yes. Now, the mediator's role is to facilitate communication, encourage reflection, and support parties in transforming their perspectives and even their relationships. That is transformative mediation. Then there's what we call transformative dialogue. The purpose of transformative dialogue is to create a space for open and honest communication, allowing parties to explore underlying issues